Greetings, everyone. We're back here in another session with Michael in Germany. And my name is Brett Norman. I am the host of this session. And today we are going to delve deep into the topic of Bruce Lee and everything that surrounds Bruce Lee. It has much more to do with the world, actually, perhaps, than it does Bruce Lee, if I might say, Michael.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just really interesting what Michael has told me so far, but he hasn't told me everything. I like surprises. So Michael's got some surprises for us. And of course, today is July 8th, 2023. And welcome, Michael.
Yeah, hi Brett. It's nice to meet you and to team up with you again. And it's nice that there are some people out there who are really looking for the truth, thirsty for the truth. It's so hard to get to the truth these days. And it's just really my approach that this is the last topic of Satanic Media Agenda, because if you then don't see the broad picture, then I can't help it. Takes me so much hours to go into this, and I'm surprised every day when I'm searching for things and looking for the truth, because it's an entire agenda. It's the entire media is against the truth. It's against Jesus Christ.
It's interesting, Michael. I had just gotten back home from a visit with my brother in the East Coast, and I had some interesting talks with him. And we were talking about the Bible, and, he actually, dare I say, married a Muslim. And he, of course, is dealing with those consequences. And part of that consequence is not really, what can we say? He doesn't have his mind set on the Bible. So I brought up some scripture to him, and we had some discussions on that. And certainly I hope that he will consider studying the Bible in the future. But I think that that's the problem with this world, Michael, is that there is so much garbage floating around that people just don't want to know about the Word of God, because that means, there might be some real truth to that, and I might have to, change.
That's like looking for the first paragraph here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a picture from Hong Kong or China, actually. Yeah, I think it is Hong Kong, which is for the it was for the 80th birthday. I think it must be from 2020 then. Salute to our legend. And so then Bruce Lee in his famous yellow suit from Game of Death, his last and so-called unfinished movie, although it is the second to last movie. But that's just the approach where I would start with psychology, with the quote of Gustave Le Bon, a famous French polymath, actually, who is just best known for his 1895 work, The Crowd, a Study of the Popular Mind. And this is a quote from that book, which is one of the extremely famous quotes. Would you like to read it, Brett?
Sure. Quote, "The masses have never thirsted after truth. They turn aside from evidence that is not to their taste, preferring to defy error if error seduce them. Whoever can supply them with illusions is easily their master. Whoever attempts to destroy their illusions is always their victim. An individual in a crowd is a grain of sand amid other grains of sand, which the wind stirs up at will," unquote.
Mm-hmm. And I talked about that verse in German for quite some time. And I just said, okay, if you then know from the Bible, from John 46, that Jesus speaks of himself, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," then you only have to replace the truth with Jesus. And of course, the opposite of the truth is the lie or the error. and then you replace the error with Satan. And then the picture, I think, it's quite obvious. Or is it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the thing is, Michael, which Jesus are we talking about here? Because remember, there's a society of Jesus.
Yeah.
This is the real crux of the problem, is that just because someone comes in the name of Jesus doesn't mean that they're telling the truth.
No, but it's just that the majority of people, they do not want to hear anything of the Bible or of Jesus. So that means that we have a minority program here. People don't want to listen to us because it's just hard to cope with. It's not an easy subject, and it doesn't get you in a comfortable zone. And so that I apologize.
It really, really rustles up the comfort zone. Yes, it does, Michael. Thank you.
Yeah, and you see that must be 2020 here, because all these people are wearing face masks. Yeah, so that is just a psychological operation. Psyop.
Wow.
Yeah, so therefore that quote, I think, is very fitting, because it serves at least a double purpose. Yeah?
Yes.
It's not only for Bruce Lee, but it is for lies and truth in general, or Jesus Christ versus Satan, or God versus Satan. Anyway, yeah, either way around. I just want to quote that book here. It's just from that book, The Crowd, A Study of the Popular Mind, from Gustave Le Bon. Yeah. And that's a very famous book, you see. That's with the steering of the masses had become quite popular, also with some works of Edward Bernays, crystallizing public opinions with the Third Reich, and the propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels and Stalin and all these people. They are using these psychological approaches and these psychological books actually against the masses, yeah, because they do know that they can steer them very easily, because they do not act logical, but they act emotionally. Yeah, so emotional. So that means yes, we can.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's emotional argument. Yeah, so let's get together, have solidarity, and let's stick together. It has nothing to do with any topic. Yeah, it faces absolutely no logic. And so that's what I'm talking about. We will soon leave China, we will soon leave Hong Kong, we will soon leave Bruce Lee, because I have a big problem with Bruce Lee, what I came up with when I was doing research, and what I would like to show you very soon. But thinking of China, look at this. China closes down Christian WeChats and Bible apps.
No surprise.
Yeah.
No surprise.
And it's quite recent. It's just 1 year ago.
Right.
Yeah, a new ban on online religious content.
Yeah, and you see these series, like this television series. I saw the first commercial for it the other day. I couldn't believe it. The Chosen. Have you heard of this? Okay, there's a new television series, I think it is, here in the United States called The Chosen. And they're really, really mixing it up, Michael. They're mixing it so badly, and it's so subtle, the errors. It's, what are the two qualities that the Jesuit order likes to promote worldwide? Sophistry and casuistry. Sophistication and cases of conscience. It surrounds us everywhere in this world, in this United States.
Oh, it's
everywhere here.
That's the new normal, new laws.
Well, the Bible says the whole world lies in wickedness.
Yeah, it's also in Russia that you may not proselytize anymore since years now. That has been restricted under Vladimir Putin.
So we should know, Michael, we've been warned. We know the warning that the entire world is engaged in all this wicked behavior. And of course, it's all Antichrist.
Yes, it must be. Because, you see, when the quote of Gustave Le Bon says... when the book of Gustave Le Bon says the masses have never thirsted after Jesus or after the truth, it's in line with the biblical text of Matthew when it comes down to the broad way.
Well, yeah, I mean, we could say, that our Messiah is the Son of God, right? So the world has never thirsted after the Son of God because they don't thirst after God to begin with. And if they do, it's not the God of the Bible. Different God.
Yeah, that's my problem, that I just constantly facing that the truth will be banned, restricted, limited, censored, everywhere. Yeah, so that's the problem that we are facing, so that people do not want to see the truth actually, and it's very, very hard to come up with the truth and be not censored. Okay? So, let's get it on. You know that quote from William Casey, the CIA director from 1981, I suppose. I know at least that Brett knows it. Would you like to read it, Brett?
We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. William Casey, CIA director, 1981, yeah.
That's a verified comment. I have looked upon that intensively, and I have found the origin of that quote, the source, and we have talked about that in the Conspiracy Kennedy session, so therefore I do not want to get into it. But do see this in context to the link that I'm presenting now. This is no fake. This is from the Congress of the United States. Would you care to read it, Brett?
H-Res 654, recognizing the immense impact that Bruce Yun-Fan Lee had on American and global popular culture and the important role he played in creating a bridge between cultures, championing values of self-respect, self-discipline, and tolerance in our nation, in pioneering and cultivating the genres of martial arts, martial art films, fitness, and philosophy in the United States and the world.
This is a House resolution of the United States. And therefore, I think that we should merge China and the United States, which was my intention from the get-go, but I just found that 2 days ago. And I said, yeah, that's spot on. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when you're dealing with the House and the Congress, you're dealing with the corporate states of America. That's what it is. It's a corporation.
Yeah.
They want to sell you everything, don't they?
It's officially that the United States government is recognizing Bruce Lee for his abilities to combine East and West. Okay, he was born in the West, and he made career in the East. He was grown up in the East. He came back to the West, and then he was going to the East, and he intended to get back to the West finally, but he didn't make it. So he was creating a bridge. What's the Latin equivalent of a bridge builder, Brett?
Oh, Pontifex Maximus.
A Pontifex Maximus. Yeah. So once again, at least slightly, I feel a notion of that it is been seen as a religious figure, at least a role model or an idol in the Bible.
Yeah, the important role he played. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, not speaking about that he actually in the first instance he is an actor, not playing down any of his extreme abilities. Yeah, but he's been born in a family of actors. He's himself as an actor. Yeah, so that means he's violating one of God's 10 commandments, which is blatantly obvious. Yeah, which is in Exodus 20. Verse 16.
Yep. Correct. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
Yeah, in the right line of order, it would be the 9th commandment. Yeah, that goes for every actor, without any exception. Yeah, let's move on.
Oh, and see how the world makes it so innocent.
So you see that he's been seen as a role model, as an idol. You can get any memorabilia from him. If you want to have a dirty, filthy old sand sack, then you're just free to just pay $33,000, Brett. If you would ask something for your old punching bag, maybe it would be close to $3. But when it's him, then it's $33,000. If you got some old shoes of yours, you can deposit. Yeah, no one wants to have it. If they're just Bruce Lee's shoes, then it's been sold for close to $30,000. Yeah, that's the difference between you and Bruce Lee. Yeah, everything that Bruce Lee touches, it's becoming gold. Yeah, 20,000 for a shirt, no problem. Some shoes, 20,000. 17,000, that's just a bargain here. Yeah, I do not know if they are selling underwear, but boxing gloves. Yeah, now we're in the cheaper department, 12,000. And of course, letters for 10,000. Yeah, autographs for 12,000. Yeah, you can make a decent living if you got something in your possession. I don't have to work 9 to 5 then. Yeah, so this word is so sick, it's beyond comprehension. Yeah, so but let's move on. The problem is that the American government speaks of Bruce Lee with philosophy, right, Brett? Mm-hmm. If you then compare the things that he said with the compare of the original teaching by, for example, Krishnamurti, then you see that they are quite literally copied by in some way or another. And Linda Lee's ex-husband Tom Bleecker writes, what does Bruce Lee have to offer that qualifies him as a philosopher? You're aware that Lee failed out of college? There are college graduates working on philosophy doctorates that are far more qualified on this subject. He was anything but a philosopher. What he did was occasionally play the Oriental card at a party or interview. He was anything but a gifted philosopher. Although he had made a book together, a compilation called Chinese Kung Fu, the philosophical art of self-defense, because he was studying philosophy. But you see that what the American government does is just appreciating somebody who's just stepping in place as a role model. Yeah, not promoting anything but images and idols. Yeah, so therefore he was just only in for the money, which is the current theme in Hong Kong. They are just only in for the money. Bruce Library was Napoleon Hill's The Law of Success, and lesson 6 of this book counsels the positive use of the imagination and affirmation by creating a definite chief aim. So he wanted to have success. Therefore he just created his definite chief aim, which means that the positive use of imagination and affirmation is, to me, sounds closely to spiritual exercises. Yeah?
Ah, yes. Interesting. In one of his darkest hours, Bruce sat down and wrote the following. Under the influence of Isaiah 14, eh?
Yes. We talked about that in the first session, of course. Yes.
My definite chief aim. Bruce Lee, will be the highest paid Oriental superstar in the United States. In return, I will give the most exciting performances and render the best quality in the capacity of an actor. Starting in 1970, I will achieve world fame. And from then onwards till the end of 1980, I will have in my possession $10 million. I will live the way I please and achieve inner harmony and happiness.
It's all about me. As I said, no mentioning of his family, no mentioning of his children. And his woman was pregnant when he wrote that. I'm not taking anything away of that man. He's got outstanding abilities. Ed Parker, the grandmaster of Kenpo Karate in the United States, once said Bruce was once in 1 in 2 billion. Yeah, so most likely he was the most outstanding talent of the 20th century. But we want to find out the truth, and therefore we have to look everywhere where it's not the truth. But we see that his ambition was just to make money and not to speak out the truth, or just to be there for his family. The problem that we will face, there are many, many Bruce Lee's experts out there, and also people who claim to be Bruce Lee historians. I know that there are Bruce Lee historians officially granted that title from the Bruce Lee estate run by Shen Lee, his daughter nowadays. But there are many self-proclaimed historians out there, and we are no historians. We just prove everything against the Bible, and we just want to find out the truth. And will be a hard time. We will be a hard time because I'm not a native English speaker, and many other people are having also a kind of a business here, running YouTube channels and making profit on that. In comparison,
well, that's interesting. You bring that up, Michael, because to be historically oriented is not necessarily you're a historian. It's just that you use the lens of history to view what the world actually is, which is actually a really smart way to go. Now, I think our friend there, Tom Fress, would call that historicism. Mm-hmm. And I know that historicism is a type of, what would you say, it's like a theological philosophy. But, Colossians 2:8 says, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy. So just be aware that, it's not necessarily the way you perceive it. It's the truth that matters. So definitely let's just think for a moment, if we can. I know this is a lot to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Think for a moment that we are looking at the entire creation, and we have to go year by year back in time to understand what happened. And you're not going to get the clear story that easily. It's very difficult because the suppressed information, you don't get both sides of the story. You usually get the one side, and that is the victor's side of the story, obviously, right? Because the victors tell the story when it comes to history. But there are little cracks in the pavement where people come out with these statements and show an entirely different view of that history. So that's what we're talking about. We're trying to get both sides, the good and the bad, and then we can sort it out in our own minds. Well, that's how I view it, Michael. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a very time-consuming approach.
Yeah, but once and for all, I said that it's the last time I want to go into any media and any actor, because it's all the same. But if people have a relation to America or China or martial arts or what else, you see, the 50th anniversary of the death of Bruce Lee is on 20th of July 2023. And after 50 years, there is so much debate and so much controversy around the subject, and many, many, many self-proclaimed experts making just money out of it. I'm not speaking about anything in particular, but generally, Bruce Lee...
It's only 12 days away, Michael.
Yes, Bruce Lee is a business. Yeah, the name sells. It's like Coca-Cola or Ferrari on that concern. You see that everybody knows, Bruce Lee, that's a household name. This is just like a trademark. It's just a brand. Yeah, and so I found that very strange when one guy who is putting up extreme amount of videos and really interesting videos, and he's very careful in restoring videos, is just harassing about another Bruce Lee guy who says that, they are Bruce Lee historians. He claims to be a Bruce Lee historian. Yeah, Bay Logan, this is wrongly, this is B. Logan, it must be one of the most prolific historians, people who are affiliated with the Hong Kong film industry, actually. And this YouTube channel claims, oh yeah, B. Logan, you know, he claims to be a Bruce Lee historian. But actually, he claims to be a Bruce Lee historian. Yeah, but I'm actually a Bruce Lee historian. I'm the expert on Bruce Lee, not that guy. Sorry, what is that a kind of approach? Yeah, I thought we were looking for the truth, but it seems that people would like to play divide and conquer, and people would like to downplay and attack the character. And I don't attack any character. I think that everybody serves his own purpose. The one guy does publish refurbished videos, the other guy is into history, the next guy is into martial arts, and that's fine to me. But what's the point in saying that one is better than the other? I thought we were here to see the truth. And I have a hard time with that approach, and I have a hard time with any Bruce Lee historian. Because they
I
would,
agree
they, of
with
course,
you, Michael. I agree with you, because that is the one sign that you know you're up against something strange, when you have character attacks.
Yeah. And that's not my approach. I just want to find out what's the story behind the man and why the American government is honoring him, more or less. What for? And what's the deal with it? And what can we have a benefit out of it? We are just here for the truth. And nobody is just interested in the truth. Everybody is interested in making profit, I think. Yeah, everybody who's running a big website is making profit for the number of of hits on his channel. Everybody who's writing a book is making a profit on it. Everybody who makes a documentary on it and selling it is making a profit. We are not making any profit here, and we are not intending to make any profit. We are just doing it out of love for the people and out of love for the truth. That's the point. So I don't know if person A is telling the truth, person B is telling the truth, person C is telling the truth. We have to find out. We have to find out what's the truth. That's my approach. Yeah? When somebody says, I'm the expert on Bruce Lee, not that guy. Boah, come on. There are people out there who are more educated on Bruce Lee than I am, of course, who have lived with Bruce Lee, who have trained with him, who are living in Hong Kong. But my point is that we are Bible-believing Christians, and we will look behind these allegations. That's my point. I just want to bring something that I think that almost nobody has mentioned yet. And we haven't done that yet, and we are about to do this out of love for the people, and we don't get a dime for that, and that's also not the point. The point is in just simply telling the people that the Bible is correct. So, I have found at least 11 different methods of Bruce Lee, how he has died. One of them is from smoking marijuana, that Bay Logan actually had claimed at one time. But this expert on Bruce Lee on that channel here, he has also claimed several times several things, and it's not my point. Yeah, so that is Bay Logan. Yeah, he had said that he was poisoned by tainted cannabis. Might be, can be. Who am I to judge, because I wasn't there at the autopsy. I haven't seen the corpse. So I'm just only relying on the story that people are telling me, and I find many contradictions there. Yeah, and somebody think that poisoning is ridiculous. The other one thinks that heat stroke is ridiculous. But what's the point in it? We are just here to find out the truth. I'm not attacking anybody's character. I think that the channel which promotes this here has the same right to be publishing his videos as the other party has to publish their videos and to tell their opinion. Yeah, so therefore this channel here asks, be respectful here, okay? But sorry, if I say that any other party is ridiculous and he's not the expert but me, I do not think that's very respectful. So everybody can be his own expert on Bruce Lee. I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. I am very grateful that this channel here exists because it's provided us with many interesting videos. But maybe we should learn to love one another a little bit more in the future. Okay? So, yeah, when this channel says people are stupid and misinformed, yeah, sorry, seconds ago he said, be respectful here, okay? The same guy comes up with people are stupid and misinformed. Brett, I have a hard time, you see that's so obvious. Sorry, we are not thinking, I do not think that people are stupid, I think that people are misinformed. And also I think that many so-called Bruce Lee experts are misinformed. Because you can't be a Bruce Lee expert and get it right 100%. That's the first thing. The second thing that I think that also Bruce Lee expert cannot help you in many cases, because then you would have to be an expert on the entire history to really see the bigger picture. And that's what I'm trying to do here for free. You see, when a channel here is promoting, oh yeah, Bruce Lee is just destroying stones with 2 fingers, and I see that he's just striking with his palm, it's obviously not 2 fingers. Yeah, by only using 2 fingers, I don't see 2 fingers in that video. Yeah, so who's the channel who's misinforming the people? Now, once again, I really like that channel. I really like other channels, but please don't be rude to others. Yeah, I like this channel. I like Bay Logan. I like John Little. I like so many people who are in there, and I just try to sort out the things which I think are useful and are correct. So Bruce Lee is a big money-making machine. In comparison, there are no financial interests in our study here because we are just doing it on Sabbath, on the day of the Lord, which is totally incorrectly adapted and named as Saturday, the day of Saturn, but actually in a Christian terminology, it is Sabbath, so the day of the rest. So therefore, we are doing our service for the Lord we are trying to do our service for the Lord, trying to find out the truth, okay? So that is our approach. Be nice to each other. Love thy neighbor as yourself. Because I see a big problem with Bruce Lee, and that was his arrogant attitude. Yeah, you see this nose brushing, yeah, and which he has started when he was just a child actor. Yeah, this arrogance, because he knew that he was the greatest, the outstanding martial artist, and this arrogance has created much enemies. And it is very interesting when I just looked into a movie last week where 2 of his best friends have starred in an extremely famous movie of the 1960s called The Magnificent Seven. This is the actor here of Jules Brunner, who played the King and Me, and also who played the Pharaoh Ramses in the 10 Commandments, Brad. Yeah, and he's, do you see this quote on the screen appearing here? Could you read it?
The graveyard's full of boys who are very young and very proud.
Yeah. And I found that extremely fitting to the attitude of Bruce Lee. He died at the age of 32. And he also was very young to die. 32, I think, is very young to die. And very proud. Yeah, so that is just a warning. Many people overestimate their abilities. And if you are young, you think that of yourself that you are indestructible, unbeatable, and what else? So once again, I kindly ask for your polite attitude by listening to these videos. There will be many things, pictures who will insult you, many opinions who will extremely you think of being rude or so, but they aren't. They are just opinions, and everybody can have his opinion. in that movie here, The Magnificent Seven, yeah, actually is based on a Japanese movie called The Seven Samurai, because the content of that movie is that there are 7 gunmen here who are being hired by a very poor, I think it was a Mexican city here, who are being harassed by gunslingers, robbing them of their corn, robbing them of their possessions, water, food, and everything else. And to protect them from these gunslingers, they asked these 7 so-called heroes there. And among these 7 heroes are not only Jules Brunner, but Steve McQueen and James Coburn. So 2 of the inner circle of Bruce Lee. And 1916 is close to the date 1959 when Bruce Lee was stepping over from Hong Kong to the United States. Yeah, that's was the line that I found very fitting here. The graveyard is full of boys who are very young and very proud. Think of the soldiers who were serving in Vietnam. At the average, I think they were 24 or so, 23 or 24. They are very young and very proud, and the graveyard is full of boys who went with enthusiasm to Vietnam and wanted to fight for their country. Didn't know what to fight for. But they were killed. Very young and very proud. Because the younger you are, the less life experience you got. And Brett and me, we are both far more than 50 years old. So we have a decent...
Well, you know, and that kind of begins with the parents, actually. You know, my dad, I don't know about your dad, Michael, but my dad would never have let me join the service. He wouldn't do it. He said, nope, you're not going to go. Because he was made to go. He was forced into the service. And although he didn't get in an army position where he was on the battlefield, he still didn't recommend doing it because, it really changes. They want to change your character, Michael. In a sense, they do. You know, if you fall into that trap. But that's different here in the States than it is there in Europe, I suppose, because we're a military country. The United States is a military country. There's a lot of mercenaries here where I live. And they approach things, very bluntly.
Yes, and that's my problem with it. You see that here, 13 years later at the funeral in Seattle, you see here Steve McQueen and James Coburn. The 2 people who have been main actors in The Magnificent Seven, where Jules Brunner so famously said that the graveyard is full of boys who are very young and very proud, and who could know that 13 years later these 2 main Hollywood actors would be standing there at the final funeral, the second of the 2, for Bruce Lee. You see Linda Lee here, his widow. So, that's my approach. Lee died in 1973 at the age of 32. Above Steve McQueen straightens the sign on his casket. Yes. It was the perfect fusion of East and West, and the Washington Post said that he had a Cagney-esque cockiness and early Steve McQueen nonchalance. I said yes, because Steve McQueen and James Coburn were both students of Bruce Lee. And Steve McQueen is a household name. He was the highest paid actor of the 1960s, as far as I know, driving Ferraris. Yeah, and what was the approach of Bruce Lee once again, Brett?
Yeah, right. The big boss in Fist of Fury. Quote, "When the Rolls Royce arrives, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to drive down to the waterfront and call Roman Polanski and Steve McQueen on the car phone. And when they ask, where am I calling from? I'll say from the back of seat of my Rolls Royce, overlooking the junks in the Hong Kong harbor," unquote.
So it's all about money. Yeah, you see that Rolls Royce is a status symbol. And what are you in the hierarchy, Brett, when you are sitting in the back seat of the Rolls Royce.
Oh, yeah. What did we call that? The director, right?
Yes, and not only this, that's just a sign that you really had made it if you don't have to drive on your own. You see that when Steve McQueen...
You're the master, yes.
You're the master, yes. When Steve
Yes.
McQueen drives his Ferrari on his own, and James Coburn also had Ferraris, and Steve had Porsches, and Bruce also bought Porsche and all the stuff. You see, these are status symbols. Yeah, but when you are sitting in the back seat of your own Rolls Royce with the chauffeur, then you have made it. Interesting enough, in the 60s, 1966, Bruce Lee started as a sidekick in the Green Hornet series, playing a chauffeur, a Chinese chauffeur. Yeah. Okay, so then compare that with the most paid actor of the 1960s, Steve McQueen in Bullitt. It's all about cars, boys. Boys and cars. This is Steve McQueen, and he was an avid racer also. He also managed and financed his own driver movie called Le Mans. I do not know if people are familiar with that. Yeah, Steve, sorry, I've forgotten that. Steve McQueen, Le Mans, Le Mans, Le Mans. Yeah, so that is a movie that Steve McQueen financed himself, and he was almost going bankrupt on it. But he wanted to play the racing driver, and he was extremely talented. Some people say he was close to Paul Newman, who was maybe the most talented driver actor of that period. But he was driving a Porsche. You see that Golf Porsche here. Yeah, Steve McQueen, he was driving 911. He was Mr. Cool. Yeah, he was the coolest guy out there, Steve McQueen. So that was the role model of Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee always said that he wanted to beat McQueen. And he asked McQueen for support, and McQueen denied it and said, no, I don't want to carry somebody on my shoulders. And Bruce Lee was furious. And it has been reported that Bruce Lee was raising his fist when he was getting out of the house from Steve McQueen. He was furious. He wanted to beat McQueen. He wanted to be the highest paid Oriental actor, beating Steve McQueen. And how can you beat somebody who's driving Porsche, Ferraris, and all that stuff? Yeah, when you just drive or being driven in a Rolls Royce. Heck, when you are so potent, when you are so wealthy, then you don't drive anymore on yourself. Yeah, it's always fast cars. This is Pontiac Firebird Trans Am and the Hunter in 1979. Also, Steve McQueen died quite early. I think he was just 52 or so. I have to look it up, but he was just not getting any old. I think he had cancer or so, but yeah, this is just not a regular life. Yeah, Steve McQueen, Le Mans, movie of 1970, so close to 71, close to the point that Bruce Lee was hopping over to Hong Kong. Yeah, he was just 50 years old. 50! Pardon me, that is just here the German page, but nevertheless, he was just 50 years old. Steve McQueen. Yeah. Remembering Bruce Lee, Pat Johnson quotes that Bruce wanted to be what Steve was. He wanted to be what Steve was, and they had this mutual respect. And now I got a quote out of the book of Fighting Spirit. Would you like to read it, Brett?
Sure. Page 104 from Fighting Spirit. Although it needed work done, Bruce brought the bungalow at 2551 Roscommare Road and hung his training bags under the eaves at the back. But at nearly $50,000, he was in a way over his head and was soon struggling to meet the mortgage payments. On top of this, the operating costs were much higher than he was used to. He didn't have the money to furnish it properly. And now the Internal Revenue Service was knocking on the front door, which had yet to be repainted. Yet when Bruce received the windfall of $8,000 from the sale of one of his father's properties in Hong Kong, instead of buying furniture or paying the bills, he bought a red Porsche and went racing along Mulholland Drive with Steve McQueen.
Yes. Any more questions?
Man.
And that is supposed a picture in front of the house in Bel Air with his 2 children. Shannon had been born in April 1969, so you can estimate that it is close to the end of 1970 or the beginning of 1971. Because in 1971 later they have moved to Hong Kong, so it must be 70 or 71 there. So he was living in a very good area in Los Angeles. Yeah, and that's where all the mess starts. Yeah, that's the house from the front, and in the back you would see this punching bags and all the stuff. So it's a very decent house, but you're buying a house that you can't afford. You're buying a car with the money that you then get. But your family does not know how to survive. I think we have to do another approach, a quite unusual approach, because I think that we have been framed. The television is just presenting, or the media in general is just presenting us their view. Look at this picture here with the movie camera indicating somebody from the left is trying to stab someone from the right. But if you really see the big picture, you see it's quite the other way around. Yeah, that's why I really prefer that picture here, because I think that the media history and all the stuff is just fooling us. They are fooling us. They are framing us. They are telling us stories. They are telling us things which do not fit. Yeah, and it's just like in a movie where you've been sucked in your seat in the cinema and you just deep dive into an alternative reality or virtual reality. And that's the big danger nowadays, that people think that this internet is the real world, but it isn't. And that's a frame. And I found it very fitting that in Germany, the manufacturer Samsung has presented a new screen called the Frame. I said, yes, that's fitting, huh? The Frame. Because they are framing you. They are setting you a frame which you have to stare in, but you don't see anything outside that frame. That they are telling you, they are framing you. And they're telling you right in the open. At least the manufacturer called Samsung does. The frame. And this is not by accident here, I think, Brad. That's the Golden Gate. At least it could be.
Mm-hmm. Sure looks like it. Yep.
Yeah. So they are framing us. They are building frames and they say, okay, this is the pattern and this is what you are supposed to be arguing. Otherwise, it is not politically correct. But I don't care which is politically correct. I only care for the truth. Yeah? So there are many, many systems and methods to frame people because they don't question the narrative. They are just being allowed to question some sort of methods, but the agenda goes on and on and on and on and on. Don't question the authority, because these are experts, these are doctors, these are professors, these are highly educated people. And who are you? And also journalists are not allowed to ask individual questions, but everything has been set up before. So this is a frame, and also this is also valid for the usual situations. This is for politics, this is for education, for media, and that's also the case in history. You can't ask some questions. If you would ask, were they really on the moon? You don't get any good grades in school, in university, because you can't question the narrative. Yeah, you're only allowed to ask, how is it possible that they can achieve all that oxygen and all the propulsion and all the stuff? But you can't question the narrative, and we have to question everything. We have to start at the beginning of it all. Not saying that we start at 1940 in San Francisco, where we just talked about the Golden Gate a few sessions before, but we have to ask the complete narrative. So we have to get back in history from Bruce Lee, back also on the location from Hong Kong to the United States, where we have learned he has bought a house in Bel Air. That's Los Angeles. Los Angeles, it's nothing but Spanish and means the angels. And Los Angeles bears a strange former times Kodak Theater, now Dolby Theater, where you see all these pentagrams on the street. Yeah, there you got a decent picture of it. Yeah, you see all these pentagrams here. Los Angeles means the angels. Can you imagine what kind of angels there are when they have hit the earth? I can give you a hint. It's just from the book of Revelation, chapter 12. I know that is a repetition to many of you. I'm sorry, but maybe we should have a repetition here, Brett.
And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
Yes, and we are speaking about Bruce Lee now in Los Angeles, trying to achieve a world star, which means he tries to be achieved, to be worshipped as a fallen angel, because he wanted to have a star on the Walk of Fame, which he did. Essentially, he did, years later. Usually, you don't have to question the authority. Yeah, stay asleep and watch TV. This is from the movie of John Carpenter called They Live. Yeah, and the main protagonist, he needed the special glasses to find out who's a real human and who's a transhumanist, or who's transhuman, or who's an alien, or what. Of course, this is just a movie, but it depicts a kind of reality which is already in place, if some people know out there what I mean by talking of people being transhumanoid now. And this is nothing like the allegory of the cave. Yeah, so that's philosophy. Remember that Bruce Lee studied philosophy? What's the allegory of the cave?
The allegory of the cave, or Plato's cave, is an allegory presented by the Greek philosopher Plato in his work Republic, and to compare the effect of education and the lack of it on our nature. It is written as a dialogue between Plato's brother and his mentor, narrated by the latter. The allegory is presented after the analogy of the sun and the analogy of the divided line. In the allegory of the cave, Plato describes a group of people who have lived chained to a wall, or to the wall of a cave all their lives, facing the blank wall. The people watch shadows projected on the wall from objects passing in front of a fire behind them, and give names to these shadows. The shadows are the prisoner's reality, but are not accurate representations of the real world. The shadows represent a fragment of reality that we can normally perceive through our senses, while the objects under the sun represent the true forms of objects that we can only perceive through reason. 3 higher levels exist: the nature sciences, mathematics, geometry, and deductive logic, and the theory of forms.
Yeah, does that remind somebody of a cinema here? When you're just allowed to see a certain aspect which is a frame. You're not seeing the reality as it is. You were not present when the events were happening, but you only see a picture or a frame of it in a movie. That's what the director wants you to see and what the actor wants you to believe, but it's not the reality. So these are all liars. Every actor is a liar. He has to be, because it's what they have been rewarded to. They get their fame, their fortune, their money, their star, their pentagram, as a representative of a satanic system in the satanic media, because they have lied that well. If it is Brad Pitt, if it is Richard Burton or Charlie Chaplin, I don't care. But these people are not representing themselves. These people are doing so and just having violating the 9th commandment and in bearing false witness, because they think and they present themselves as another party, as another being, as another actor. And this is just a lie. Every movie is a lie. It's a lie. And who's the biggest liar gets the biggest prizes or the greatest fame, because he can lie the best. Oh, did you see, I do not know, I do not care. Uma Thurman, did you see, who else? Oh, she was great in that role. Yeah, but she lied. She was the biggest liar. And that's people do not get, because they have been educated with that. That is quite normal to portray somebody else. But it's a violation of the 9th commandment. Thou shalt not bear false witness. So we are dealing here with a company with the total media here of lying wonders, of lying images. Yeah. So you have been framed. In the cinema, there's just a screen. Yeah. So you've been framed. You only see what the cameraman and what the director wants to see you. And then you see fictional characters, not the real world. But just you want to dive in this artificial world of, and nowadays you don't have to go to the cinema. You only have to sit in front of your monitor, of your television set home, of your home cinema system, of your computer, of your smartphone, of your tablet. The frame surrounding the issue can change the reader's perception without having to alter the actual facts, as the same information is used as a base. This is done through the media's choice of certain words and images to cover a story. In the context of politics or mass media communication, a frame defines the packaging of an element of rhetoric in such a way as to encourage certain interpretations and to discourage others. For political purposes, framing often facts in such a way that implicates a problem that requires a solution. Members of political parties attempt to frame issues in a way that makes a solution favoring their own political leaning appear as the most appropriate course of action for the situation at hand. And that is nothing else than Hegelian dialectic.
Bam. Yep, I was going to say the same thing. Hegelian dialectic.
An interpretive method in which the contradiction between a proposition and an antithesis is resolved as a higher level of truth, a synthesis. Yeah, maybe we should find another picture of that. It's more easy to explain it. Hegelian dialectic, yes. Yeah. The agenda would be the centralization of power, or that the state has more power. The thesis is a manufactured terrorist attack, that the people are being in fear and say, oh, the state is to be protecting us. Yeah, the antithesis is a repressive police state, and the synthesis that it's then the common and everybody can agree, yeah, we don't want a police state, but we want a little bit of protection. Yeah, so synthesis is then the removal of freedoms, transfer of power from the many to the few, or just from the people to the state or to the hierarchy, higher up in the hierarchy. It's always the same. Yeah, and that's how politics are running, regardless of the subject. It's regardless of the subject. Yeah, they always proceed with the agenda. You can choose any example. And what the state does is controlling the mass media. This includes not only newspapers, broadcast systems, news agencies, but also the internet. Yes, the internet is an invention of the American army, actually, the ARPANET. And they're using propaganda. Edward Bernays, being the nephew of Sigmund Freud, it comes from psychology, says propaganda is the executive arm of the invisible government. That means there is a government behind the government that you can see, because there are people in power who are not elected. Oh, what a great news. This is just so-called the deep state, whoever that is. But what does propaganda mean, Brett?
Oh, man. Well, now we're going to get into medieval history, because really where does propaganda come from? Comes from the study of the etymology of the word. And when you look up this word propaganda on etymology online, what do you get? Da-da-da. The Catholic Church. The papacy. That's the invisible government.
Yes. And it's hard
to
to
bishops. Yeah, bishops.
It's hard to believe for many people. It's a committee of cardinals in charge of foreign missions of the Catholic Church. It's hard to believe for the people, but I can tell you one example. Images, posters of Bruce Lee's movies so far. Bruce Lee. No evil on earth could survive the fury that was Bruce Lee. Yeah, you see? It's evil. Evil on earth. Yeah, so it's negative. Yeah, so it's a big boss. It has always to do not only with protection and self-defense. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's always shedding of blood. Yeah, you see blood on the chest. Yeah, you see always blood. He's always killing people. Yeah. Next one. Bruce Lee claims his revenge through death and beyond. It's always fury, it's always rage, it's always negative. Yeah, but it's just been sold because he just kills people. Fist of fury. Next one. Once more the Colosseum echoes the sound of a fight to the death. You see, Bruce Lee is constantly associated with death. And then it's a wonder that he only was 32 years old when he's only been associated with violence, death, fight. Never mind the fact that the dragon in biblical terms is Satan. Next one is coming up. Their deadly mission to crack the forbidden island of Han, enter the dragon. Deadly mission. You see, it's death everywhere. Yeah, even you see Jim Lewis acting as if he would be dead. So it's just bearing false witness once again. Yeah, and this is the last one, Game of Death. Yeah, it has death in the title, which has not been completed. Yeah, and that means here Bruce Lee challenged the underworld to a game of death. It's always death. So the frame has been said that Bruce Lee is the avenger of death. He did not do any comical movies, any comedies, any drama, any criminal things, any usual stuff. Not at all. No fantasy. Yeah, all his movies are about death. And the last one is Game of Death. Yeah. And we will have a long way until we come to that movie and my suggestion about that all. Because we are now making a complete turn in terms of Bruce Lee, because we are going to the United States of America. But so far we have reached the end for that session, which is the introduction of the background of all the things that all the things that are surrounded with Bruce Lee. Thank you so much for listening, and I will like to close it down with that picture here when it comes down to Bruce Lee and his last home in Los Angeles. I think that we have been framed, and next time you see why I think that we have been framed. So thanks so much for having me. I hope that was quite a light session, and looking forward to the next time. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for the time that Brett is spending on that sessions, and Maranatha, looking forward to next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michael. Been a pleasure to be with you on the session. Yeah, a very interesting picture of Bruce Lee there. Unfortunately, he's, not doing things the way that a normal family would do things, and that's sad. But that's what you get when you get an actor that gonna start his own company and deal with a very aggressive form of art, I suppose, the martial arts. Yeah. Excuse me. Yep. So we'll catch up with everyone next time. And thank you again, Michael, for the session, and looking forward to continuing in the journey of Bruce Lee. And we're going back to the United States. So looking forward to the next one. Catch up with you then. Bye-bye.